Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to get started pretty much right away so that we can honor everyone's time. Let me just see if Dr. Daniels has joined us yet. I'm sure he's logging in. And we have a lot to cover, so let's go ahead and get started. Let me pull up the agenda. Okay. Oh, is my camera on?
Yes, your camera's on.
Oh, it's multiples of us that are first repair. Got it. Welcome to the January strategy session. I hope you all are well. We have a pretty packed agenda today. I'm very grateful to be back in this role. Last year, as you know, I was a fellow at UChicago and it didn't allow me to be here. So I want to thank Kiera for doing an excellent job last year in facilitating our meetings. I also want to take this time to introduce our program manager for the strategy sessions, as well as our regional strategy sessions. Bailey Rue, if you don't mind introducing yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Bailey. I recently joined First Repair as a program manager. I'm super excited to be joining First Repair and also be joining these strategy sessions. So thank you all.
Thank you. So when you hear from Bailey, she's working to keep everything in order. Bailey, we really appreciate you joining us. And so we want to jump right into the regional sessions. The agenda should be in the chat, so you can follow along there. And we're going to start with the Midwest region. We have Attorney and Committeewoman Claire McFarland that will lead that. Next, we will have the East region, which the report will be given by Aziza Robinson. And then we have the West, Dr. Cheryl Davis, and South, we have Brother Jamoke. Each of you have 5 minutes for a high-level report on what's happening in your region. Thank you all for your leadership. And if you don't mind concluding your reports with the time and day of the regional session. And if anyone needs a link to that, please do put that in the chat or email Bailey directly. Thank you all. Is Claire on the call?
Sorry, I was just talking away and had not unmuted. Typical Claire. Okay. So we had our regional meeting yesterday. Sorry, on the 23rd, so a couple days ago. And in writing up the minutes, I looked back at our regional meeting from January of last year and was so pleased to see how much our Midwest region group has grown and some really exciting things that are happening with the group. We had a full discussion and there was a lot of resource sharing that I want to go through, but just some high level things before I get into detail. We discussed some ideas for speakers. We also had some call outs for some resource sharing, and I'll point out when I go into more detail about the different groups, some of the requests, so that I think nationally this group is so wonderful about responding to those requests. And some things were shared by the group. We're following up, but by all means, you know, one of the key things that is our hope for this is that we'll reach out to each other and support. The other thing that we're doing is putting together a calendar, and hopefully we can all access those. Do we have a Dropbox, Bailey, for that, for the material from the meetings? Is there a Dropbox?
We have a Microsoft group for the Midwest region, but maybe Robin or Kiera will have more.
I just wonder that because I think sometimes when they're virtual meetings and we want to jump on to support, and also for some upcoming legislation and so forth, letters of support or, you know, signing. I hope we all saw what was sent around by the Colorado group and were able to join in to support them. And I will bring those things up. And then we also talked about the sharing that we had at our wonderful last symposium just a month ago. I guess it's almost 2 months ago now. and how helpful that was. And looking forward to some of the things for 2024 that the whole group will participate in the Tulsa retreat and, some of our upcoming things. So I want to go, and is it possible to share screen? Yes.
So let me just jump in. We have 5 minutes for each region, and the primary focus is to share any milestones that's happening within the region.
Yeah, so I want to go, I was going to share, and maybe I can just put it up and I can share later because I don't want to waste time doing that. But Kansas City.
Claire, can you hear us? Claire? Okay, in that case, let's move on. If Aziza is ready, we can move on to the East and then we'll come back for the Midwest report. Aziza, thank you for being here. Can you all hear me? Or it's not me, it's you. Okay, good. In that case, let's move on. I did see Dr. Cheryl Davis from San Francisco. Dr. Davis, can you give us a 5-minute report?
Yes. Hello, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity. I will be brief, and I want to thank Linda and her team for their help with the meetings. We've had 2 regional meetings so far in San Francisco that have been focused on, first and foremost, getting to know each other and what the efforts are underway. Really learned off top that folks were in different stages and spaces. I will say at the last meeting, we spent a lot of time, which may be something that would be helpful for us from this group. We spent a lot of time on the language conversation around when we say reparations and how we advance the work, because sometimes that language is a little bit, folks, it's polarizing and folks can't get to the message in the heart of that. And so wanted to make the distinctions between true reparative work versus what folks are doing and what that looks like. There were also some, and I see Kelly on, so Kelly, feel free to chime in. I think we wanted to begin to start similar to work that's been done, but begin to start to really bucket out and have these conversations around expectations, have conversations about best practices. Ariva Martin shared some of the things that she had to do to be able to build that work in Palm Springs, and how she had to pivot from where she started to where she is now, and introducing and developing in that way. I will say, we've had some challenges and issues in San Francisco with language, with request, and how that works and how things move forward. So we spent a great deal of time on language, rubrics, protocols, how we're going to think about what that looks like outside of this space, what it takes to actually build allyship in this work, and how to address folks that may be not even conflicted, that just are opposed, opposition in this, and that sometimes opposition can derail the ability to move that work. And so really talking about how we build that. And then talked a little bit about, and I don't know if this is something that other folks feel or experience in their work, but we talked a little bit about how each county or each group wants to feel like they're special and that they're doing something different. And that sometimes if you refer to something that's being done somewhere else, they'll be extremely dismissive or they'll discredit the work. And so trying to figure out how you build on best practices without people feeling like you are a copycat or that you're not innovative and them kind of being disruptive to the work. So we're just spending a lot of time in conversation right now. I think what we're going to come away with, and I'll yield the remaining time to Kelly. I think where it looks like where we're going to build first is around inclusive language that allows people who may be in a minority to build the work and advance it in a way that it doesn't get shut down before they even get started. And so, you know, again, for a lot of us on the West Coast, and specifically in California, where folks think we're so progressive and liberal, I would say it's probably way more conservative than some of our other conservative states. And they get to hide behind a few progressive acts, and it's not really that easy to move the work. But I'll yield the rest of the time to Kelly.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Kelly Fong-Rivas. I'm in Sacramento. I serve as senior advisor for the mayor of Sacramento. I really just want to emphasize and echo what Cheryl had shared already about language and those definitions. It's something that we try and be really clear about as we are moving between definitions of reparations at a federal level and what we are trying to provide redress or direct repair for compared to a local level and the actual policies and decisions that are within the locus of control. So nothing too new for folks here, but that really continues to come up, especially as work moves forward from the California task force and what had happened in the anticipation of legislative proposals, what will happen during this presidential election with that. A lot of things are getting caught up. So being very clear has been the largest struggle throughout conversations that we're hearing, resonating with folks across sort of the Western region, certainly here in Sacramento. And then again, to that point about being able to learn from one another with best practices. Let's see, Claire, do you mind going on mute? We have a little bit of an echo happening there. Thank you. While still wanting to pilot in this space, folks recognize this is new. They want to be first to do it in their way for their people, depending upon the community. And so that's just the two things I wanted to lift up that Cheryl really talked about. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly and Cheryl. Claire, are you ready to give further report for the Midwest?
You know, I think I have some audio problems. Would you all believe I was talking that whole time? Anyway, yes, I'm ready to give the report for the Midwest. And I'm going to, I don't know how to, I'm going to try and look and see if I go off. Okay. So I was struck by the fact that looking back at our previous year's report, can you all hear me? And I'm connecting. Yeah, okay, great. That our group has grown so much, and we have some new initiatives, some new members, and I want to lift that up. We had, I hope that everybody received the email from the movements that are going around with Colorado, Justice for Black Coloradans. That was, so Colorado had a significant year. They have, their bill is going forward for racial justice study in Colorado, and they have a call out for some resources and expertise to see how they can assist in evaluating that and advocating for that properly. So maybe we could drop those resources in the chat. They also lifted up a documentary that I believe started on January 8th, The Cost of Inheritance, which talks about reparations in the U.S. and features Lottie Lieb Dula. I hope I'm saying that correctly, you know, who's connected with Denver's Black Reparations Council. So we're so happy to see the progress that Denver has been able to make during this year. We also had Kansas City joining, and Kansas City has gotten some amazing grants to get started, their reparations committee, from First Repair, Hadley Project, Venture Capital. They have they've got a lot of things going on. Their first monthly meeting is a Monday, virtual, and Robin Ruth Simmons is going to be their guest speaker. So again, we're all interconnecting, supporting each other. At the Black Expo, they're arranging for the Big Payback to be shown twice. So again, using that as an educational tool. And their mayor's commission has submitted a budget to the council for $510,000 in December. So again, some assistance with advocating, reviewing that, analyzing that. Again, if we can all help and join in and sharing those resources. We had a wonderful report from DeSLU, who has Ariva Martin, who all those of us who came to our symposium in December will have met, who is a fantastic attorney who assisted the Palm Springs litigants. They're going to be helping DeSLU with some possible upcoming litigation, and everyone is anticipating that will receive national attention. So let's look out for that. She's helping on the legal and marketing side. DeSLU also is participating in a national conference, African American Intellectual History Society, March 8th through 9th at University of Virginia, and waiting to hear back, hopefully positively, about some grant applications that have gone in, particularly anticipating being able to have the headstones for some ancestors placed on campus. DeSLU's been working hard with the St. Louis Commission, Reparations Commission, and we had some members also join there, and that was helpful. Finally, with Evanston here in the Midwest, significantly this month, we were.
I'll jump in and complete the Evanston report. Last week, actually, we had decided on our final 454 direct descendants, have randomly selected them, and disbursement will be happening next month, $25,000 direct benefits. We have established 3 additional working groups, the economic working groups, let me just wrap up so we can move on. So that work is moving along. We have a partner with the Buffett Institute at Northwestern University that has been helpful in community education, unity, and narratives. We're really excited about that. And I don't know if Keith Williams is on the call or not, but there is progress happening in Detroit as well. So please do join the sessions based on where you're located. And we go more in detail, but these meetings are really to give a high-level overview of legislative action and major milestones. Next, if we could have Jamoke give a report on what's happening in the South region and let us know when the South is meeting.
Sure. So greetings, Jamoke Fetayo. Glad to be a part of this process. So we meet on the 4th Tuesday of the month. So we just met on the 23rd this month, 2 days ago. And so in terms of reporting out, I think, things were a little slow during the holiday season for some of us. But anyway, I know that one of the reports want to lift up Sister Joan, who, even though she's been dealing with some health challenges, has been blessed with getting a lot of press on some of the work that she's been doing. Some of the work she's been doing has been featured in a documentary. She got a couple of articles that came out and a podcast as well. Also want to lift up Harris Neck. They are now actually been trying a lot of different things over the years. That's a fight that's been going on since after World War II. But right now they are in communication with Senator Ossoff. But they also, I want to capture this accurately, was saying that at some point, sometimes when you keep beating your head up against a brick wall, you want to try something new. So they decided that they're going to launch a campaign dealing with fasting and prayer, and let God come in and assist them in their work. And it's also going to be supported by a letter writing campaign. And they will they will share those dates with us soon. But it's something that they would like everybody to, who are interested, to engage and support in and support them as well. And then also just myself, I recently partnered with an agency that got a grant to do work in the Metropolitan Atlanta Reparations Movement. It's a group of nonprofits that came together, called themselves the Atlanta Reparations Collective, and they wanted to see how they could support the Atlanta Reparations Movement, Fulton County Reparations Task Force, Atlanta, as well as Decatur. And so we're small grant, but it's a grant nonetheless, and we're doing some work in that regard. And I guess what I want to say, because I feel like I don't want to do justice because there's so many, report outs, and I know, the direction. So I guess my question would be, is there a place where people can see the notes from the different meetings, so that those, groups that, we don't talk about every city or everybody, people can benefit still by seeing those notes. I don't know if that's, how we deal with that. If there's a mechanism for that. And I think also our group, we've been, a lot of times we do end up spending a lot of time reporting out. And so we're also wanting to shift our focus a little bit more to finding out, to looking at what are ways that we can support each other, what are experts that we can bring in to work on specific strategies or specific concerns that people have, fundraising or what have you. And so we're going to be looking at kind of shifting our focus a little bit, minimizing the check-in and focusing more on how we can get some resources that we need to continue to do the work and deal with the challenges that we may have in the work that we're doing.
That's right, Jamoke. Thank you for that report. We're hoping that you're sharing it with your regional group. So I've been participating on the East and the Midwest region, and there is a group email as well as information sharing. So what we can do is we can put together the regional report and share it with the listserv of attendees for this national meeting so that we can spend less time on reporting. So thank you for that. And then lastly, I didn't see if Aziza joined the call. There's a lot happening on the East, so I hate to skip that. If there's somebody from the East that would be okay unmuting themselves, someone that attended the meeting yesterday or a day before yesterday, whichever that was, and give a brief high-level report. There's great things happening in New York, Massachusetts, Boston. If you can unmute yourself, that would be great. The real Jimmy Fleming, are you not up for reporting?
I'll give it a shot, and I'm sorry that was not intended as an internal joke, but my colleague Mark was using my link, and he came in as the name as well. So yeah, thanks, Robin. I'm looking at the notes from yesterday, and I'm sorry if I don't do justice to all of the reports that were made. This is only my first time meeting with the Eastern Group, so I am dancing a little bit. The group in Amherst reported that a disbursement plan is going to be announced. I don't know exactly any timeline on that. That's the extent of my notes. A gentleman joined from the Philadelphia Task Force of NCOBRA talking about their work doing in that unit, in that group. Sorry, I'm scanning notes. This sounds incoherent, but it's also because I can't decipher my own writing. I'll speak a little bit about something that I shared, and this is relatively new as well, but because of our meeting, ours, when I say ours, Mark and my attendance at the First Repair Symposium in Evanston, we had the good fortune to meet Senator James Sanders, who's the co-sponsor for the Reparations Task Force bill that was sitting in the New York Assembly for a long time. And as you might know, between Christmas and New Year's, the governor signed that bill. So it's now going to be enacted. And as a result of that, Senator Sanders has brought together a group of people who are going to be working in different committees to actually support the work that the task force is doing. There's one on the history of reparations in New York, which I've been assigned to, and we're scheduled to meet within the next week or two. And I don't know exactly what that work will entail, but nevertheless, I'm thrilled to be part of that. But there will also be those who are paying attention to the work that's being done in the areas of health, education, and wealth accumulation and land disbursement as well. There are 6 committees, and I'm sorry if I'm not articulating what all 6 are. That's a rather significant step forward. I do not know when the other committees are going to meet. I will learn more hopefully in the next 2 weeks and can report on that as necessary. I'm sorry, if Aziza or Kathleen has joined, they might have more of a formal report. I'm just looking through my notes, and that's the high spots.
No, that's great, Jimmy. Thank you. Thank you for the East report. Next, we have up our partner reports and updates. And so we're going to start with Linda Mann from the Redress Network. Linda.
Hey, first of all, great to see everybody. I'm sorry I have to log on at 2, so thank you very much for letting me speak now. Okay, a couple of additional really important updates. And Renata asked me to do this because she's busy at work, but she is on. Shout out to Brown Grove. After 2.5 years of engagement, Adam Ortiz, who is the director of the Environmental Protection Agency for Region 3 came and had a full day visit with the entire Brown Grove Preservation Group on Tuesday this week. There were no promises, but conversations about exploring the DEQ and wetlands, leaning into the Army Corps, air emissions and air monitoring, voluntary compliance, NEPA, an audit of maybe of the government processes, which led to the creation of a Wegmans distribution center in the historic African American community of Brown Grove, which is sadly the size of the Pentagon. In addition, also want to give a shout out to Africatown, Alabama, because they are also having a visit with the EPA and the head of the division. They've been engaged with the EPA for a long time. We'll see if any of this goes anywhere, but the perseverance and persistence of those communities must be exalted. It's just extraordinary. From an ARN side, we're deep into walking alongside communities. We will be doing the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal assessment, known as the Black Audit, in collaboration with Howard University and Columbia University in the city of Detroit, and also in Kansas City. And so we are very, very busy on those two. And in addition, we are working at this point somewhat with Washington, D.C. We'll keep you posted. So our hope is to advance the Reparations Task Force research and efforts to secure some policymaking in those communities.
Thank you, Linda. It's great to see you. And then next we have, well, actually, Virginia did email, she's at a conference in Switzerland, so ICTJ is not able to be here today, but she said there are no major updates from ICTJ. And then do we have someone here from Thurgood Marshall Civil Rights Center?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh.
Sorry for not turning my camera on. I've been struck down with COVID, so I'm not at my best right now.
Well, we're glad you're here, and we hope COVID isn't too bad for you. If you could just give us any updates.
Sure. So last semester, the clinic was working on slavery disclosure ordinances, and those of you who were in Evanston may recall that. And so we're looking to continue that work and get that into the hands of advocates and lawmakers, and make sure that people are armed with the information that they need to bring that forward. In another project this semester, the clinic is going to be looking at reparations for contemporary slavery, and want to think creatively about how to take some of those lessons and apply them to the past. And we're hoping to have a colloquium focus on this subject at some point in the spring, but we'll keep you updated, and it will be streamed.
Awesome, thank you. We'll definitely share it with the group. And from First Repair, for the sake of time, I'll ask everyone to visit our website. We keep our calendar very much updated of events where we'll be, workshops and other learnings and opportunities. Looking forward to being in Kansas City, looking forward to being in Miami next month, Jamoke, more about that. Looking forward to seeing many of you this quarter. Additionally, we continue to work towards the Resource Center. More to come on that. And also really excited to announce that we will be releasing a song, a reparations song next month for Black History Month. It is hip hop is the genre, and it includes artists that performed at our symposium last month in Evanston. It's the best song I ever heard, but of course I'm biased. And I will go ahead and move on to the meat of today. When we launched when we sent out surveys for our symposium, that was our third annual symposium, we partner with NAARC for that. Almost every initiative, and there were 76 unique reparations initiatives. There were 226 of us that participated in the symposium, and almost all requested the support of NAARC and to be certified, for your local reparations initiative to be certified. It is a process that we went through in Evanston. We did that while I was on city council. It held us accountable to the best practices of reparations, making sure that it was not ordinary public policy, that it honored the community's voice and all of the requirements to check the box that it in fact is repair and not ordinary public policy. And that has been led by Dr. Ron Daniels. Dr. Ron Daniels is the convener of NAARC, the National Commission for Reparations, and he has decades-long experience in leading the reparations movement nationally and locally. His bio and his credentials and experience is far too long to mention, but know that he is a leader that is accessible and one that was a tremendous leader and support as we initiated our work in Evanston. So Dr. Daniels, thank you so much for being here. And the floor is yours. If you need to share your screen, Bailey will be able to help you with that.
Well, thank you very much, Robin. No, I won't be sharing my screen. I had some items that I could potentially have put up, but as you well know, I'm immersed. In fact, I was late getting onto the call and I was panicking because something happened just before I got on the call that I needed to address. Let me just say that I'm profoundly appreciative of this opportunity. I think we have to commend Robin Ruth Simmons for this incredible work, along with the staff of First Repair. I don't think we can ever thank them enough for the pioneering work that has been done. Secondly, let me quickly say a word about the National African American Reparations Commission. And before I do that, let me just say that how enriching just listening to the reports have been. In fact, it's almost like I'm feeling like I'm not going to say anything that's new because we have such knowledgeable, creative, active people involved. But it's like a refresher course. So the National African American Reparations Commission, on which Robin Ruth Simmons serves, and Justin Hansford, I see here, also serves, really was put together to be an authoritative body, a voice, to provide guidance, to provide assistance, and to be supportive, really, of the reparations movement as it was growing and developing across the country and the world. Our mission primarily is like fourfold. Number one, and if you have not done so, you should do so, is to advance the 10-point. We have a 10-point program, which we have developed as a reference point that addresses lots of different issues, actually, in terms of, do we do individual payments? Do we do collective payments? And a number of other things. And you can go to Reparations.com, that's with 2 M's, reparationscom.org, where we have a website. NAARC has a website, and you can view the 10-point program. I know that there are some who reference it. When I was at the symposium, I think Tulsa, a number of other people talked about they're referencing the 10-point program. Secondly, we have been very, very, very much involved in helping to support HR 40. Which is the effort nationally to get the establishment of a commission to study, but not only study, but to develop reparations proposals for African Americans. And in fact, almost every one of the symposiums have supported that effort. There's been some activity that has been involved in that. And then thirdly, to look at and to examine the role of colleges and universities, families, financial institutions, those institutions, what role have they played? Because that's a whole nother body of work that needs to be examined. And then finally, but certainly not least, is to play a role in the development of local and state reparations initiatives, which quite frankly is, from my perspective, very strategic. This is a very strategic body of work. And I just have to quickly say, just for a refresher course, because sometimes when you're in it, people don't understand it in the way that perhaps we should. The reparations movement, and I'll use Nkechi Taifa's words because she is so brilliant at it, is on fire. I mean, the reparations movement, I've been working in this for all of my adult life. I have never, ever seen reparations, both at the local level, state level, and the global level, developing and exploding as it is. So you are making history. You are actors who are actively engaged in making history, the history that our ancestors dreamed about, and see it in terms of fulfilling it. And in that regard, the key question that we have on the table is that this is a moment of both global and national reckoning for the systems of enslavement and colonialism and neocolonialism and redlining and all of these legacies of the transatlantic slave trade, which was a crime against humanity. All of that's on the table, and it's being exposed. It's being exposed at the national level, but it is also that is also happening at the local level. In that regard, one of the most important things in terms of what Robin Ruth Simmons and stakeholders were able to do in Evanston, to use the words of Reverend Jesse Jackson, was to keep hope alive. That is to say that it is one thing to dream about something. It is one thing to talk about something. It is another to actually concretely produce it. There's a word back, I think it was Junebug Jabbo Jones said, Mr. Say ain't nothing, Mr. Do is everything. And so what Evanston did was to tangibly keep hope alive, because it said it can be done. So people can say, oh, it's small, it's not big enough. That's irrelevant. It's real, it's tangible. Reparations is possible. Therefore, Evanston has contributed mightily to the global reparations movement, because everybody has looked to the possibility of the actualization of these claims. And so that cannot be underestimated. And so as people are doing local work, it seems to me you should see it in the same light. Whereas at the national level, as Congresswoman Sheila Jackson-Lee says, this is about reparations as the only policy prescription that goes to the heart of structural institutional racism. The same thing is happening locally. There are people running around, oh, that's local stuff, that doesn't matter, that ain't real reparations. I mean, I don't understand that. Reparations is reparations. Injuries have occurred that are either derivative, that are from enslavement, or derivative thereof, and that's very important to say, all of the legacies thereof. And so therefore they need to be remedied. But not only that, what we're finding is in New York, New Jersey, and a number of other places, there was actually a tremendous amount of actual enslavement up south. In fact, in New York, one of the things that will be excavated, indeed, is the role that enslavement played in building Wall Street. So I mean, this is like, so that's a very important piece of work, both in terms of the educational value, both to African people, and to others, but in terms of any prospect of this nation becoming to realize its dream of being a multiracial, multinational, truly economic democracy. So it is very important work that is being done at the local level. And I bristle at anybody who tries to demean or say that what is happening at the local level is not. Now, we're struggling. We're trying to get HR 40 over the top, to be sure. But in fact, what's happening at the local level helps to make the case for the urgent necessity at the national level, because all of you are going to be struggling and are struggling with shortage of resources. The federal level is where the resources are and can be in terms of the kind of work that needs to be done. So I just wanted to say that, and obviously in that regard, I have to continue to talk about the strategic significance, therefore, of the resource center that Robin is pioneering, to in fact continue to structure and institutionalize this learning, sharing experience. I use those words all the time, learning, sharing experience. I like what I just saw. I like that, like somebody was talking about, can we get the notes? To me, that's the heart of the matter, that we are each other's best teachers. All the assets are there, learn and share. So it's an Ojima exercise, right? I mean, it's a collective work and responsibility. It is all of the local and states working together to build out this incredible this incredible movement. So now Robin actually encapsulated some of the basics from the very beginning. And I also heard that this is a constant perennial question. I heard our dear beloved sister Cheryl Davis talked about it in California, because there is questions about what is reparations, how do we define it, and whatnot. And by the way, these are good discussions. They may be troubling, but I'm glad we're having all these debates. These are not negative debates. These are good debates. They mean people are engaged, people are involved, and people are involved in the process. But it is important to say that reparations is not equity. We've stressed that before. I mean, equity is good, by the way. But definitionally, equity deals with the question of making sure that disparities and discrimination and all that does not occur now, henceforth, and forevermore. It does not address the historical crimes and those issues that have in the past. It does not. But we should therefore be supportive of equity, no question about it. The bigger question in some ways is the question of ordinary public policy, because it will be very easy both for policymakers and even people in the community to just grab onto the most recent need for jobs or the most recent need for economic development and say, oh, but that's we're going to do guaranteed basic income and that's reparations. Well, it may or may not be. You know, the issue is that ordinary policy is distinguished from reparations by what is the nature of the injury, what is the nature of the historical harm that has been documented, and the question of redress in that regard. So that we have, I mean, we go for it. There are huge issues in the Black communities and brown communities around the country now that require ordinary public policy, jobs, housing, economic development, all of that. But there's a distinctiveness in terms of reparations that has to do with Evanston, for example. Then there's a need for some housing now. The whole grants there are in relationship to repairing a harm that was done in terms of redlining and disinvestment that was documentable. So, but by the way, I think that we don't sort of fight about that. We just say, yeah, we need all of it. Let's push for all of it and let's get it all done. But that's an important kind of discussion. The other thing quickly is the principle of restorative justice. I don't have to sort of bore you with that is, except to say that there are people who will get the Holy Ghost, they will see the light and they want to give you something. You know, we will help you. We will, you know, we want to give you some. It doesn't work that way. The principle of restorative justice says that those who have been injured are the ones who define the nature of the remedy, not those who perpetrated the end. And it's a very basic principle, but we have to fight about that because there are people who will be paternalistic. They will want to exercise their privilege to say, you know, and you know, to give us something. And it's not about giving us anything, by the way, but we have to define the nature of the remedy. And a part of that is to always be in a position to have some sense of control over resources, right? It's not just we will give you something and we will be the ones who make the decisions. We need to be involved in the decision-making process. So those are very basics. The other thing in terms of what we look at in relationship to certification, which there's this great demand. One of the problems is resources. By the way, NAARC is, I mean, there's tremendous demand, but we also are tell no lies, claim no easy victories. We are trying to build out the infrastructure to be more effective in dealing with certification and addressing it. And we have made a decision, or we will be doing some this year. There's no way we can do 70, or we will selectively do them. And in some ways we'll do them because it would be strategically important to do one here or there or whatnot. But what are we looking for? What we're looking for is, and I think this is very, very important, is inclusivity, the inclusivity and the participation of communities and community engagement in the decision-making process. There's a tendency, and there can be a tendency for those of us who have been reparations advocates to do it ourselves. I mean, for our organization to be the organization. And I think I recall a couple of years ago, we were having a report. I think I recall even with Kansas City, Brother Mickey Dean, whom I see there. I know his background. I know he's with the Black United Front. I know he comes from my tribe and all that. But he was pointing out the relationship that they have, and if I recall correctly, in Kansas City with the NAACP and other legacy organizations, if I remember correctly. And I spoke on that because you need to be inclusive. We need to find to include the broadest range of voices in the mix. That doesn't mean that you have to have every voice, but every sector of the community ought to be able to see itself in the process. And one of the most memorable moments in going to Evanston was when Robin and other people came together and they put together a stakeholders conversation that we had. And they had everybody there. People from the private sector, people from the university, people who were community-based activists. I mean, they were all around the table, right? Which means that when you get that kind of buy-in, then it means that you're less likely to get stones thrown at you, though they will still be thrown at you. But that's an important piece that I often stress. So the question of developing a community stakeholder organization to have a community stakeholder process is very, very, very important in terms of ultimate outcomes. So let me just go over that point again. In terms of developing, when we look at both initiating and developing reparations initiatives, it is important that the community drive the process. This is what I'm getting at, the community driving the process. So if you have a community stakeholder group that is meeting regularly, they may make the decision to say, we are recommending that we have 10 people or 11 people be our task force, be our commission that we have designated, and that we are petitioning or not only petition, that we are demanding that the city recognize as a commission. That's one route that could potentially be can be taken. And another route that can be taken is that working collaboratively with the city council or with electeds, there is a process by which there's an agreed upon formula for people to be appointed, but that appointment ought to be with some sense of input and advice from the community. And by the way, there are two steps to this, not only advice in terms of who sits, but advice in terms of where what proposals, where are the proposals going to come from? For example, Robin made it very, very clear when we were having conversations in Evanston, a whole lot of ideas on her table. She was constantly saying, look, we've had a series of town hall meetings in which housing was what came as the #1 issue. That didn't come out of the air. That didn't come out of Robin's brain by itself. It came out of a process. And the process in that regard is very, very, very important. So let me move on quickly to try to, so we can have Q&A. So an ideal approach would be to have a community stakeholders body that designates a number of people who could become a commission. I think the Evanston model is a good one. It may not be always followed because not every city has what's called a reparations subcommittee. But that reparations subcommittee was real helpful in Evanston. So we always recommend that is a good structure to try to get in place. But if it's not in place, that's fine. But because what happens is then the community-based group makes its proposals to the subcommittee, and they work together to then present them to the larger council. And the larger council has a responsibility to translate. And that's why having the support of the Thurgood Marshall Center and Linda Mann and others becomes important, because legally, what will pass muster legally also becomes important in terms of the translation. That's an ideal way of approaching it, but it could be directly from the community stakeholder group to the council itself, and then the council then would act on these proposals. In Evanston, they have the variance is slightly different in terms of having a fusion on the council that Robin sits on, and they are in consultation with the community-based group in terms of the membership and receiving proposals. So there are different ways of doing it. We recommend, however, it doesn't have to be this way, but it's good to have a separation, frankly, between the electeds and the elected political body and the community-based body, because not everybody is going to be Robin Ruth Simmons. Not everybody is going to be as selfless and whatever. And so it's just a way of guarding against, people trying to do patronage and all those kind of things. but again, it's not a deal breaker. All right, let me hasten to move on to the next point. And finally, I think, and this is one that we hammer on all the time, is it is really important to move forward to create an independent community-based finance authority, finance commission. I don't care what you call it. It is a way in which the community you have to develop your own financial structure. Evanston has it. Robert can tell you what it's called and whatnot. The name is unimportant. But that means it's important for a couple of reasons, because in some instances, the city council may not be able to, because of laws in the state or federal laws, distribute things on what might be called a racial remedy basis. Though what has been done in Evanston, that's why having the documentation is so important in the way that Dino has done with the center there and whatnot, is to tie directly to specific harms. But it also opens up the opportunity that funds can go to that independent finance authority, but the community can also amplify by also contributing. Corporations, families, financial institutions. So we feel very strongly about that. And Evanston, again, has the model for that, and they have been willing to provide technical assistance for how you get that done. So finally, let me just say that when we are going to do a certification or even initiate a process of assisting with a community to actually initiate the process, we have an assessment team. That assessment team, of course, includes Robin Ruth Simmons, Cam Howard, whom many of you know, who is the executive director of Reparations United, and Dr. Julianne Malvo, Black America's leading political economist, Justin Hansford from the Thurgood Marshall Center, and all of them are there for a specific reason. I could give you a rationale for it, and then I play a little role in it too. So we have a team, right, that goes out. Now, not all of us will go to all of the visits, but we have an assessment team. So how would we deal with doing a certification? That's already happening. Is people provide an invitation. We need to be invited. Once we're invited, we would lay out a schedule of visits, because what we want to do is, when we come into a city, we want to meet with electeds, we want to meet with community people, we want to meet people from the private sector. We want to look at what is being proposed or what has been proposed and what does it look like in terms of the kind of criteria and the kind of structures that I've just talked about. And that's what we did in Evanston. And then we will, having done that, we will issue a report saying, there's a need for some work here, there's some work there, or we will say, great, fine. And we would then issue a certification accordingly. So that's basically what it is that we would love to be able to do more of. And by the way, let me just go back and stress a little bit about again, the importance of the educational process, the town hall meetings, the forums, the symposiums, all of that kind of work to continually educate the community. Because a lot of times when you start off, communities, they have all kinds of different ideas about what reparations is and is not and whatever. So the educational process becomes important, but also building a base of support, building out that base of support. So again, it can be the certification, but we on a limited basis, we're also prepared to initiate and to assist communities to launch a process that will lead ultimately to certification. So anyway, again, most of that is stuff you already know and may have already heard, if you will, but let me shut up there and then be open to questions and answers.
Thank you, Dr. Daniels. And everyone be prepared to unmute yourself. We have time for 3 questions. And Dr. Daniels, more specifically, how do they make the request or send the invitation to which
Well,
email?
I think there are 2 ways. One, they can send them directly to NAARC. I don't know our email address off the top of my head, but you can send them by way of IBW actually at info@ibw21.org, info@ibw21.org. I know what the website is, but I don't know what the email address is for NAARC. But info@ibw21.org, And the other route is the route that people are taking, and that is by way of of First Repair and the Emerging Resource Center. To be perfectly honest about it, it is through those existing requests that we will be sorting out and looking through the people that we know have been coming to the symposiums and so forth. Those are going to be the top priorities. Those are going to be the first ones that we do, and we will do some this year for certain.
Awesome. Thank you. Are there any other questions for Dr. Daniels? You can unmute yourself. I agree. It was very informative and definitely worthwhile. So if you are interested, again, we do have a list of those that responded with interest from the symposium, and there will be some process of follow-up from the initial interest. Dr. Daniels, one other way that I refer us, I have my NAARC commissioner hat on now, is for communities that need to develop or present town hall meetings. I think NAARC does an incredible job in, with you bringing in national speakers and experts. Is that something that we'll have the capacity to do this year if invited by communities?
It's very difficult because, again, our and you and I had a conversation yesterday. We were talking about how huge this mission is in terms of both local work, state work, the global work. So it's really about a good problem, and that good problem is, how do we not burn out Robin Ruth Simmons? And I'm here to tell y'all, Adam, I'm not trying to burn out Robin Ruth Simmons. I think that's why the resource center is important, because we can bring you to Robin, or metaphorically to the resource center, so she doesn't have to, because she will go, and then next thing you know, she'll be tired and worn out, and we don't need that. So we have to create systems for getting these things done, if you will. So I think one of the things that we will try to put together some kind of toolkit or some kind of just basic notion of how you do these town hall meetings. Fortunately, what happens is that very often it's important to be able to do something like the big payback, or to bring someone like Danny Glover, or someone, really, that if the part of it is not only the issue, but attracting people to someone who's in favor of reparations so that you can get the word out. And then organizing the town hall meeting in a way that you're sharing the information and doing the follow-up and recruiting allies and whatever. But that also can be done virtually these days. It can also be done through symposiums and whatnot. But I happen to love town hall meetings. I think they're great ways to interface with people, get people involved. And again, inclusiveness, putting town hall meetings where all different voices are heard. When we went to Evanston, we consulted with the people there about how to do it and how to put it together. And again, it's not just the people who are coming in who are just talking to the people. It is pulling people from the community. That's where we met Dino, for example. How could we have had that town hall meeting without Dino? And there are others, you know what I mean? What are the local assets that need to be put together to be showcased? But again, I'm a big proponent of inclusivity and having it broad. I also have a bias towards faith leaders. I think faith leaders play an incredibly powerful role in our communities by virtue of the fact that they have congregations, but they're also respected because and particularly when they're progressive. I'm not just saying just any faith. We have lots of progressive faith leaders, and they have congregations. And if they're working with congregations, that also is helpful in terms of getting people to come out and becoming engaged as well.
Awesome. Thank you. So in closing, I want to just remind everyone, really encouraging you to watch the cost of inheritance, I believe, on PBS. It's great. I watched, enjoyed it. Also went to see Origin. It's the story of the book Cast. There's incredible arts and culture that's really advancing the conversation around reparations. I see that we have Tanika of the Folded Map is on this call. Please get familiar with her work, the Folded Map, and stay engaged. We do have our next session is going to be in February 22nd, and it's going to be Cam Howard. It's a very timely meeting to discuss seizing the time and getting engaged in the national conversation around reparations. He will give us updates on what's happening nationally how we can use our vote to make sure that reparations is still alive in Congress. And we're looking forward to that. He has a campaign, I think it is, Dr. Daniels, do you know the name of it? The Black Vote? We'll send it out. If anyone knows it, put it in the chat, but we'll send it out with.
It's called Earn the Vote.
Earn the Vote.
Earn the Vote campaign.
Yeah, .org. So you can learn more about that there. Looks like some.
Earn our Black vote.
Thank you.
The Black
Jamoke.
Vote. I'm sorry. Yeah, and the Black Vote. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Thank you, Jamoke. So that really concludes our meeting. We really want to honor everyone's time. Reach out to me if you need anything. I'm glad Dr. Daniels lifted up the interfaith community. We had an incredible meeting yesterday with interfaith leaders, and we look to be more specific in serving the interfaith community moving forward with a possible event specific for the interfaith community, as well as a Divine Nine. So I have to lift up Dr. Sheila Flemings out of Atlanta that had a call to action to the Divine Nine to do more to support reparations. And that came up in our interfaith community as well from an alpha man. So shout out to all of the Divine Nines. I don't want to get into that debate and get in any trouble, but all of you are loved and your service is appreciated and your leadership is needed in the reparations movement. And so with that, that concludes our meeting, and I look forward to seeing you all soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.